Welcome to War Games, hosted by the sales genius Joe Ingram. If you're looking to win the sales battle, then you have joined the right team. In the War Games group, we devise strategies for sales, marketing, branding, mindset, and attitude. We enlist the assistance from the most successful producers across all industries. We then share their knowledge and techniques with you. Our single goal is to get you ready for your next sales opportunity. When it comes to crossing the minefield of sales, step in the footprints of those that have crossed before you. Now, prepare yourself for boot camp and beyond. It's time for the War Games to begin.
How we play a game.
Welcome, War Gamers, and those of you listening to us on the Sales Genius podcast. We have a great show today. So I want to welcome you, and we're here to bring you the brightest minds in sales, marketing, and entrepreneurship. And this week, we got a true sales legend in the house with us today, Neil Rogers. With a career spanning over 3 decades, I think that's a requirement for all of us that are, the experts in sales. We have to mess up a long time. And once we get to 3 decades, it's like, stop, I'm an expert. He carved a stellar path in sales and marketing. He's not confined to a single industry, which is itself impressive. He's worked with clients across various verticals, including pharmaceuticals, biomedical, manufacturing, logistics, financial services, and government defense contractors. But that's not all. He's also the owner and VP of marketing and sales at Rogers Marketing, a company that's notched up several million-dollar sales awards. So it's not small change, guys. So he's going to provide you with something you need to listen to because he's an expert at it. He's bagged a Velocity Award for remarkable growth and clinched the prestigious Heavy Hitter Awards for managing large accounts. Neil and his wife, Lori, are the ingenious creators of the Positive Activity 11-step process. I don't want to step on that, but he does have a fantastic new book out, okay? And his book, look, it's over here. Bar tips, everything he needed to know in sales, he learned behind the bar. So I'm thinking we're going to be pretty casual here, but at the same time intense. So I'm going to bring up JR, who's out here VIP in it. Neil, welcome to the stage. Brian's sneaking back in off screen. We got him. He needs more coffee for today. But Neil, welcome. Thank you for coming on to War Games and Sales Genius to share your expertise. And I'm excited about the title of the book alone. Right?
Hey guys, thanks for having me. This is awesome.
Fantastic. Let's move everybody around a little bit because we want Neil to feel really special and come over here, Neil. There you go. It's not about Joe in this show. It's about the man in the arena, which is now Neil.
There you go. Teddy's right behind me all the time.
So, Neil, other than my canned bio for you, is there the hidden things you want to tell us about that didn't make it to the publication?
Well, in the book, it's kind of very modest beginnings or tough start, I should say. Getting out of high school, the 7th of 8 of an Irish Catholic family.
Wow.
And everybody gets a little tired towards the end of that, so nobody's really watching the store.
Right.
And I have no axe to grind with my parents. It's none of that, but it was just tough getting started. Graduating high school at 17 and trying to figure out where am I going to go? It's not like it is today when we had our kids mapped out from DNA right up until now, right?
Correct.
And so I literally went to my mother in my senior year at high school and said, is there something I should do to do this next year? I mean, literally, that's how little I had going on. Oh, maybe you should try school. Oh, that's all right. So I tried school, swing and a miss. But all the while, I was in the hospitality business. And so, doing back of the house stuff in the kitchen, making sandwiches, bus boying, that type of stuff. Then I got to an opportunity to get behind the bar as a bar back, which is, glorified slave labor back,
True
back if
statement.
you've ever seen it. So,
With
and
the dishpan hands.
oh yeah, go get the beer, go get the stock, and nobody knew of. We had one tap beer, so everything was bringing out cases and bottles. So it was tough work. But what was interesting about it is that I saw these guys pouring drinks. Am I going? Now that looks cool. I want to try that. So that was my criteria, guys, for doing this, that it looked cool, not real career path or anything of that nature. And then I
Called a
decided,
higher calling, Neil.
right.
A higher
But
calling.
from there, I decided that, maybe I should get a bar job. Let me try that route. So with my esteem low, not really no success in my first shot at school, I decided to take a swing at getting a bar job. And I knew of a guy that was going to run a place in an area of Plymouth, Massachusetts, known as White Horse Beach,
Okay.
and a little bar called the Full Sail. It was a little shack right on the water. So how it all worked out is I got the job after some fits and starts and some changes in personnel, and put my first drink down in front of somebody, the customer, and he goes, "Well, that's really good." So right there was when I decided that, here I am again, as I mentioned, low self-esteem. Whoa, maybe I could be good at something. So I parlayed that. I kept working that and realized right out of the gate. Oh, by the way, took a swing at hotel restaurant management school, swing and a miss again.
Still school. Yeah.
Still school. And I I moved along, and but most of the people that I served would say, you'd be, with your interpersonal skills, Neil, I think sales would be good for you. Okay, maybe we'll try that. So still need a degree, but I was serious now. I was focused. I really was. I was encouraged to do this. I knew I met salespeople. I asked about it. I talked about the kind of type of money you could make, and I pursued it. And went back to school. But here was the difference. I had focus. I had a purpose. I had drive. And what I did was I created a process, or in today's parlance, an algorithm on how to get how I got good at school. I had focus issues and probably, who knows, maybe some little undiagnosed ADD in the day. And but I set up a process. It was a simple one, much like you read about in the book, Joe and guess, is that they like you to show up. Take notes,
So demanding.
actively listen, ask questions. If they put a phone number on the board, write it down. What are the office hours? Go to it. And this simple little deal gave me the benefit of the doubt. First of all, I got better at all aspects of school. I went from a flunked out student dose times to a 3.85 student, just from paying attention and getting a process together, so I've been process driven ever since. And the way that we came about the book, to move on a little bit from that, the way we came to the book was I was encouraged by this guy, friend of mine. During COVID, I would reach out to people via text just to check in on them. How you doing? What's going on? And invariably, I get a phone call back, because guys, as salespeople, we need to be out with the people. And I was starving and dying inside. It was just awful. And I wasn't alone. I'm not saying it was my own plight. So this one guy calls me back, and he's actually wrote the foreword in the book, and he is named his name is Terry McMahon. Terry was a wildly successful Mass Mutual general agent, but his success brought him to behaviors that he needed life-saving surgery. He got it. And I'm talking to him 18 months removed from this surgery. The transformation in Terry was staggering. And he talked about how he wrote a book on his recovery, how he's doing this, that, and the other thing. I said, Terry, you know what you sound like? You sound like Bill Murray from Groundhog Day. There's no way on God's green earth you could have done all this in 18 months. How does that happen? So he then encouraged me to write a book. And I'm like, what do I have to write? Yes, I have a nice life. I don't want for anything. I don't owe anybody anything. I've had success in my lane, cool. And he told me, he just kept on moving on. And I said, all right. So I had written some things down. I had done some writing, some small, some little ditties on the first bar I worked at, because that's kind of my fraternity, being a commuter student. My fraternity of the guys and gals that I worked with 40 years ago in the bar business. So how did they then come up with the concept of bar tips? Well, I had in the back of my head, after being at a chamber event here in Nashua, New Hampshire is where I live. The guy who was the keynote speaker at this event, my daughter was being honored. That's why we were there. He brought Five Guys burgers to New Hampshire.
Okay.
And show of hands, who worked in hospitality? Anybody? Okay. So you remember pre-meal, right? Team gets together. What's 86? What's the special tonight? What did we do last year? What's all the type of team building things? And then usually some sort of rah-rah speech, right? Let's do it tonight. Let's make a lot of money. Let's take care of the customers, whatever that may be. So he said to his team, we are not in the burger business. We are not in the fry business. We're not in the soda business. We're not in the shake business. We're in the hospitality business. Now, point of context, I'm with my wife, who, by the way, I met at a bar as a bartender. She was a food waitress. I snapped my head to her and I said, I've never left the bar business. I've been bartending on the road for 30 plus years. Same concepts, same ideas, simple. Don't overthink it. Be nicer, over deliver. Treat them right. Golden rule them, right? Sit there. I'm doing a deal. How would I want to be considered in this deal? If it was happening to me, how would I want it to happen? And then make it happen that way. Don't skirt something. Don't try to get this more. Don't do that. How would I want to have it? And for me, that's why we've won. I mean, we always sleep at night, and so in all the concepts that are in the book, which are simple in nature, are just from that time. And the greatest thing about doing the process for anybody that's interested in writing a book out there in the crew is just the research. Especially if it's a topic you're enthusiastic about, you can go to your primary resources, have phone conversations. So this was one of the things I did during COVID. I'm having conversations with people I haven't had 2-hour conversations with in my life. You saw them in passing. They own the place you worked at. Had little conversations. How's the bar going? It's going great, whatever that may be. Talked to Lori Lilly from Tia's, Tia's is one of the highest volume bars in Boston back in the day. And I spent 2 hours on the phone with her, and she was fascinating because she talked about women in business. It wasn't just about the bar business. It was like how she approached the business as a strong woman in business. How she wound up divorcing the man that she was with when I think they started the place with. Matter of fact, I think the place was named after his daughter. And but she never relinquished. When he kind of went south, she never signed off on it. So she never had any of the bad financial stuff happen to her. So she stood her ground. So she was able to keep the place. And then she contributed in the book. We talked extensively of one of her concepts and philosophies was appearance, attitude, and aptitude. And again, 3 simple concepts that seem to be in a lot of times in the restaurants and the bars that I have gone to, not that I stay at, that I go to. If you don't have those 3, or if you don't do some of these things along that are in the book, I don't go to your place. So So that in a nutshell, Joe, gives you up to that. I can keep rolling, but I would imagine we've got some questions or however you want to. I don't want to just monopolize. I could take up the whole hour with the whole gig. So do that.
So my thing is, you gave us the overall what you got to do. So instead of revealing the 11 steps that we have, right? My thing is, can you elaborate on 2 things that will help an entrepreneur, right, to sell more today? That you would say, I need you guys to focus on these 2 things of all the stuff we have.
Well, the most organized wins,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so, how are you organizing yourself? Now, I'm an old school get off my lawn guy. The business that we're in does not have 4,000 prospects and 10,000 clients. It's limited. We use spreadsheets. We talk a lot. We get together as a team. We go over client by client how we do it. So that's and we do it over Google Sheets between, because the team is all remote. So everybody we get on online, do the Google Sheet thing, and we go through it. And then we all have our action items after that. I mean, when I think about, if they're starting a new so in terms of organization, they have to, if they're in business, they have to have some sort of organization. You can never be over organized though.
Mm-hmm.
And by reorganizing, you discover new things. I see it all the time when I do it. And so I think one of the greatest organizational things I did is when I went from the food industry. I was selling, so I left the bar business, got my degree, left the bar business, got married. That was the last time I poured a drink behind a bar, was before I got married, and for pay. And and so I was working in the food distribution business. And I'll circle back to them because the second thing I want to talk about relates to that. But when I transitioned out of that into the athletic footwear and apparel business, which was a leap, it was an entrepreneurial leap, because had a little bit of a safety net with the food business. Not a lot. You're in sales. If you're not killing it, you're on the way. You've got to be producing all the time. So whether they give you a little base or whatnot, it's not going to last forever if you're not producing.
Correct.
But what I did was, in the time when the food business day was done, which was 2:30, you could not get another order in because everything needed to be delivered the next day. I took that time to break out Rand McNally blank maps of the territory that I was going to cover for the athletic footwear and apparel business. So it was basically New England. Now, I'd never had a territory that big. When I did the food thing, it was Boston and maybe Middlesex County, which end to end might be 20 miles. This is all of New England. So I sat down when I came home, when I was done, the day was done for the food business. I just mapped out everything by pencil, phone numbers with it. So I had all the current clients that they had. I got a book on that. And I just mapped it all out. I also got all my samples. I received my collateral material. So I had my samples organized, laced, because there were shoes, and then apparel on racks, hats in a case. And I was ready to start making phone calls on Monday, or at least get in my car and just go see people, right? And then go do the bartending thing. Go be nice, show up, you're the new guy, introduce yourself, all those things. And so that territory I think I got it. It was somewhere in the vicinity of a $250,000 territory, which equated to about $10,000 in commissions. So, and this was 1988, 87, 88.
Good money.
So, yeah. And so, in 4 years, doing that simple process and following that route like sales, of course, also understanding my products, understanding the industry, all those other things that we don't want to give away that's in the book. I brought it to $10 million.
Wow. So just a small increase.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Right.
And
Yeah.
Yeah, I love all the analogies you have. I used to be I started as a bar back also, then moved into bartending. And if you think about it, it's a lot like sales, like you're saying. You've got to check their credentials, right? Are they old enough to drink? Just like you got to qualify your leads.
Right.
Then when you first start, you follow a script, which is what? You don't know how to make all the drinks. So you have to look them up, but then eventually you learn them and you don't need those recipes anymore, right? You can do it off the top of your head.
Correct.
But when you do your prep work, you do it when it's slow so that when you're busy, you're not cutting up lemons and limes to make drinks, right? So the same thing, do your research ahead of time, right? There's so many different analogies that you can sit there and throw in about how bartending is. You learn one drink at a time. Vodka Kahlua is a white or black Russian. Vodka Kahlua cream's a white Russian. Vodka Kahlua cream Coke is Colorado Bulldog. And so, you still have your base foundation, which in this case is vodka, which is okay. I'm okay with that, right? But you learn all these different things. But you also start to look at things like when a repeat customer walks in the door, you make them feel special by making their drink before they ask.
Norm.
Yeah.
Sorry. That's the only bar reference I have is Cheers.
Good one.
Yeah. So it is. I mean, I used to be a bartender, and you're right. The way that bartenders make tips is what makes businesses and salespeople successful. If you were to break it down, why do you have a bar back? Because if you do everything yourself, you can't wait on the customer, and it becomes that more. How do you expand? You hire additional people. That would be your waiters and waitresses that can take things beyond the bar. I mean, we could talk about this all day. I love this.
Yeah. I mean, and again, we're not splitting the atom here. Right. It's being nicer. It's, go back to 1939's, how to win friends and influence people.
Yep.
What is, and you made the drink, and you probably did. You said, Brian, how are you?
Exactly.
What does Dale say? The sweetest sound you ever hear.
Your own name.
Your own name.
Yeah.
So I encourage everybody to go out and buy bar tips. But if you don't have a copy of How to Win Friends and Influence People, or have listened to an audiobook of it and have it going, or I encourage you to do that wholeheartedly.
What I heard Neil say is I have to go to the bar, but with his book, and make sure that they're doing it right. So it's going to be research for my business, right? So it's a tax write-off.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
It does sound like a good plan, Brian.
Yes.
Neil, I liked what you said, but you did, I thought, have a different paradigm on it, because there was a part where you talked about the 3 A's: appearance, attitude, and aptitude and attitude. All 3 of those. And
all you can control.
Yeah, exactly. And I thought that was great, because you can't control everything else. So let's just focus on what we can do. And that is a great summation, not only of what you're doing with bars, but I've got 100% financing again for $100 million, So appearance, attitude, and aptitude all plays into my little world too. Just like
you're going to have to practice saying aptitude, JR, though.
I know. I'm not too.
You don't want to say it like that in front of the prospect. Yeah.
I'm one of those little townies from Guilford, Connecticut, Neil. So I can explain a lot to you about it, But I thought that changing it with that paradigm and approaching the business with that trifold approach of tweaking all 3 of those finite metrics up and having a focus on it, and that's where your mental collective is with your people that you're working with, and that's the fulcrum that puts you into that 10 million. But it's so simple. It's just enacting it is the trick.
One of the things. So last year, I went to Boston to see Tom Jones, the Tom Jones, and guys, he can still bring it at 81 years old. All I needed to hear was "It's not unusual," "Green grass at home," and "Delilah." That was good for the night. But anyways, but I parked down on it, and I'm pretty certain nobody knows Boston, but it's Atlantic Ave, where 2 of the bars I worked at were. One is the Boston Sail Loft, which you'll see on the back of the book, and one was this Tia's place, which I mentioned, where I met my wife. So I'm looking to have a bite to eat. So I look into Tia. I looked at, and by the way, this is in reference to JR's comment about attitude, aptitude, and ability. I look into the sale loft. The bar is packed. I like to sit at the bar. I think most salespeople do, because you can have a conversation with somebody and just get to a friend you haven't met
Less
yet.
commitment. Let's be real. You can get up at any point and walk away.
Right, exactly. And so I decided, all right, I'll go to Tia's. So I go to Tia's. Now, Tia's was a high-end, really high-end place back in the day. And I walked in and sat down, was greeted okay. I don't know anybody there anymore, and they don't know who I am. And this guy talking about appearance, he had his hat on backwards.
Looks like Brian. Yeah.
Mhm.
And I was like, you want to throw a hat on? Wear it properly. That would be okay. But didn't have a great attitude on top of it. And it was just, I texted buddies of mine from the day. I said, I texted the woman that owned the place. I said, well, this wouldn't have happened on your watch. And she is the one that helped me with that chapter. So
Right.
I think and that's not to say that every place on the planet shouldn't have somebody with their hat on backwards, but a place that's in downtown Boston that's got financial people walking into it that are high-end folks that want, the martini set, you just want to go to your audience. So,
Well, and again, isn't it better to be overdressed than underdressed?
Well, that's
right?
what they
When making
say.
an impression. Yeah.
I mean, to this day, and it's few and far between now, unless it's a good referral source. We go to see a new client. I'm in a suit.
Mhm.
I don't care what they're going to be like. I'll be in a suit with a tie.
You can always dress down.
Right. We'll figure that out later, but it's always, and we always, of course, we're well prepared. And of course, they all got books and they all, the whole gig. But back to the second, you asked me for two, Joe. The second one, which I love, and this essentially, I wouldn't say it's a real. I think organization is a direct impact on your sales today, tomorrow, and by the way, everything that I think you do, any process you put in place, give it 90 days. I've got in my head, it's something I made up, and it's something that I work with today, even to today. 90 days. Sure. If things aren't working all that well, tweak it, but you've got the basic premise on, where you're headed, stay with it for 90.
Right. Keep the framework the same. Right?
Yeah.
Don't run off the rails. But
yeah. And I'm doing one personally with music right now that's working out marvelous for me. And so, but that is, I think there's a direct relationship to sales. What this one is more a relationship building one. And that is back in the food business days. I was, the young buck, still working the bar on weekends because I was making pittance, in sales service, and then covering guys' routes, and then eventually getting my own territory. But I got to know a lot of the guys, and tended bar at their Christmas parties. Always did favors for them whenever I could. And this one guy, Jim Gallahue, who's recognized in the book, but he's also, the names have been changed in the book to protect what. And so he's taught me a lot of things, but this is the one that stuck with me. He says, listen, whenever anything goes wrong, and it will, something's going to go wrong, start here.
yeah.
What was my role in this? How could I have done better? Don't be lashing out and being the victim and blaming, in that business, it was, maybe the guy left it on the truck. Maybe they didn't pick it right. Oh, the sales service girl didn't put the order in right. Maybe the computer messed up. No. And by the way, the customer needs to know none of that. Work it through, get it done in the background, show up with whatever the needs are. If there's something got left on the truck, get in your car and go and get it and bring it back. Nobody's
You can send the bar back. That's
exactly. Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
We learned that today.
Yeah, we did.
So I've always found too that the second I look for my own ownership in the the issue, right, it gives me the ability to no longer be at the mercy of the issue, right? And it gives me the empowerment to say I'm not a victim in this, right? There was some element that I caused, which means I can avoid it in the future once I've gotten the ownership of it. But so many people want to point fingers and blame, right? I spent 10 years in aerospace manufacturing, and there was one guy that got invited to every meeting, even though he wasn't on the project itself. And he got invited to the meeting to take the blame. He had a job for 30 years because he would go into the meeting when everybody started going, it's Brian's fault, it's JR's fault. No, Neil did it, whatever. His name was Neil. He would literally step up and go, you know what, guys, I take full responsibility for the issue, blah, blah, blah. And it's my fault. So document it that it's my fault and stuff. And then once you got past blame, everybody can go find an answer or a solution. But everybody was so worried about where to put the blame. And then the answer was, hey, don't forget, we really screwed up on this thing. So the next meeting, invite Neil. Yeah. So that we can point the blame at him. And
Jocko Willink does a whole special on that. If you've ever seen Jocko present, they talk about a mission that went really bad. And right before everybody started blaming each other, he's like, y'all, I'm sorry. This is my fault. This is my fault. Then somebody else, no, this part was my fault. Once somebody took the initial responsibility for them,
and everybody could buy into their own contributing factors.
Yeah. It set the pace for everybody else.
I mean, that's a fantastic analogy, and to know that to admit that you had some role in it, you're less likely to do it again.
Yeah,
because you don't want that feeling again, and if it costs you money, you really don't want to do it.
You learn it twice.
No,
you want to learn screw up in different and creative ways. You don't have to go down the same path twice.
Exactly.
Screw up.
Yeah.
I always say that when it comes to the sales department versus like the business office or the processing of the sales, they're always so upset with sales because in sales, we won't even make the same mistake twice, right? They're like, you can't do it right for sure, but your mistakes, we have to go look over every single piece of paperwork because it's not like we go, oh, you know what? JR always misses the third signature. They're like, nope. It's just out of note. We have to check everything because we know that somewhere there's a mistake. We just don't know where it is. So, but perfect. Neil, thank you so much. So scrolling across the bottom for the whole show is the positiveactivity.net. Explain a little bit about that so that people know why they're going there.
Positive Activity does have a chapter in our book. In the book, it is also its own standalone program. And it's got a very interesting story to it. And I think it speaks to one of your pillars of your show. And it starts out in mindful behaviors. So and the way that came about was my daughter was a Division I elite athlete and was injured in her senior year of college by a lacrosse stick to the head. And fast forward, she comes back home, stays with us, moves along, gets her degree, graduates high honors at the School of Management at Boston University, and decides, I'm really not interested in business and wants to get in because one of the things that saved her during her time in post-concussion syndrome was Eckhart Tolle's The Power of Now.
Power of Now. Love it.
And so her head was in a completely different place. And it was also right around, so we had gone through that trauma ourselves. It was also 2008, fellas. Who remembers those years? Wasn't that lovely? Right?
Yep.
Business wasn't all that peachy. And so we were kind of like, where the heck is going to happen here? Because there's nothing you can do that just isn't happening, right? Nothing's going on. And so there was, fear of, we still had kids, still had college, still had, we also have a special needs child. And so my daughter went to go to this fair on mindful behavior, holistic fair. So my wife went with her and, for the same reason, and learned so much about positivity and being mindful and meditation and all these things, my wife started to impart it in her day every day. And then we all started getting into it. And we've been yoga people for 15 plus years, even more, I think now. And so we devised, we read a great book for everybody out there. Again, I'm pitching bar tips, everything you know in sales, you need to learn behind the bar, but The Happiness Advantage by Sean Acor is a fantastic book that speaks about the 12 years he spent studying positivity and happiness at Harvard.
I've heard of Harvard.
Yeah, exactly. What comes first, the chicken or the egg? Is it happiness or is it the money? Or does the money come and then the happiness? Well, Sean will tell you, and his research will show that happiness comes first.
Of course, yeah. The money is a magnifier of whatever it is. So don't magnify your misery. Yeah.
So positive activity then comes about. The little ditty I put together with this is positive activity is the practice. Again, we talked about being yoga people. It's a practice. Everything's a practice. It's not a perfect practice of getting your mindset in a place of positivity, which leads you to open-minded, solution-providing, divergent thinking, creativity. You no longer see problems. You only see solutions. We're not all lathered up and crazed about, and oh, by the way, these practices that we talk about in the book are in the program, which Lori does a fantastic job of expounding on that. They should be done before you open up your inbox, before you have a shot at being all wigged out.
Right.
And then the productivity part, in this case, it's business development tactics that we have used and have been successful with for 30 some odd years in some form or fashion. And there's nothing, and again, there's nothing new there, but it's a process and a way to follow it. And again, I suggest that 90 days of positive activity, and you just can't imagine what your business looks like afterwards and how much better you feel. So
fantastic.
Yeah.
So let me say, Neil, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to come on. I do want to encourage you guys to go get the book. I do have the Audible version on my phone and I'm listening to it, but I do want you guys to bounce over to positiveactivity.net. Why? Because there's a book link right there in the first header. So it's going to make it easier for you. If you scroll all the way to the bottom, you can learn more from Neil and his wife with their newsletter. So that you can receive news and updates in your email. Go ahead and put yourself in that one. Connect with him. Learn what it is he's sharing with you guys more than, again, you'll get more when you're doing less than a 30-minute show, right? You can go out there and engage with him. I encourage you. You find him on LinkedIn. The easiest way to find his book is on positiveactivity.net so that you can just click a link and end up right where the book is at as opposed to searching. I don't know, my ADD. When I get on Amazon, I end up finding 10 other books that aren't the book I'm looking for. Even when I'm looking for my own book, which you think they would favor and say, okay, I can't find my own book unless I look for a book I wrote during COVID. I find that one and then click on my own name as the author on that book to find my newest books. But Neil, thank you so much. JR, anything else question-wise? Brian wants to mix drinks right now. And I know he's heading to the bar as soon as he gets off this. Yes.
I like the analogy. Like I said, I used to be a bar back and a bartender. It makes perfect sense. Everything he said, you learn a shit ton being in the bar industry because you need customers to come back. The competition rate's high.
The Happiness Advantage by Sean Acor, A-K-O-R.
A-C-H-O-R.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
And it's weird because the only time I have people who know me and get my order done, they're all burger joints. So I don't have to walk into the bar and they're like, yeah, Joe, because I only drink iced tea. So I never had that time to do that. But I can walk into several restaurants and they go, okay, go kill a cow because Joe's here. So, but perfect. Thank you very much, Neil. I appreciate you. And
Thank you,
everybody on
guys.
stage, I appreciate you guys too. And everybody who's watching, get out there and go sell something. Thanks, everybody. So.